have a lot of opportunities to rebuild our main streets. The city was slated to reconstruct the roadway on Division. And when the community learned of this upcoming project, they said, wait a second, stop. Can we do some other improvements at the same time?
The condition of Division before this project was essentially a major arterial carrying a lot of traffic, and it felt that way.
The pavement was in really poor condition. We had 4 travel lanes, and with on-street parking, pedestrians weren't very visible. Buses weren't able to pull up all the way to the curb and serve that stop.
BES had been doing a significant amount of modeling to look at surcharge risks, and the risk really ends up being risk to flooding within basements.
The Bureau of Environmental Services also had over 1 mile of aging sewer pipe that needed to be replaced.
We had the desire to basically deal with the stormwater issues, but the side effect of that is that you also need space to accommodate those, which allows you to do the curb extensions.
Adding Green Street infrastructure, stormwater facilities, street trees meets the city's goals of managing stormwater at its source. So we don't have to increase the size of the stormwater system. And then we also address watershed health.
The curb extensions serve a couple of different purposes. Not only is it the stormwater, but you're also getting shorter pedestrian crossing lengths, which really help quite a bit in trying to get people safely across the street. And the other side of it is that traffic does tend to move slower if they have an obstruction that is actually relatively close to the travel lane.
So the city's 2% for Art ordinance requires that the Bureau allocate 2% of construction costs to public art. The artwork is really pedestrian scaled in nature. To really experience the art, it requires being out on the street.
The south side facilities that are very small actually were very strategically used to address specific areas of concern with regard to the risk for surcharge. There were several areas where those facilities really made the difference between having to upsize a main line, which is a considerable expense, and basically being able to just take that peak off at the very start of a storm event to minimize that risk. We essentially ended up with only 2 pieces of work that basically required full closure on Division.
There were a number of challenges that were presented during the design engineering phase. It's a constrained right-of-way, utility conflicts. We had our vision of what we wanted on the street. KPFF was great at helping us solve problems.
One of the things that we did do to really kind of help bridge that gap between stormwater, pedestrian improvements, livability, with a lot of T intersections throughout the area, we ended up with a series of swales that are bisected by pedestrian crossings. From my perspective, that's a part that I really like a lot.
We'll repave streets from time to time, or we'll upgrade corners that aren't accessible, but the opportunity to look at almost a 2-mile corridor at a high level, implement visions or goals that the community has for their community Main Street is a special and unique opportunity.
The project itself was really a puzzle. How do you take all of these different uses, build them into the design, and still accommodate all of these stormwater facilities? The Southeast Division Streetscape project really has met the goals that the community set early on to create an area that's alive. And we're still doing what we need to do for auto traffic, but we're also getting these other elements pulled in that I think makes it a much more livable community.